Hi everyone, this is Solomommy. And when people walk into our house for the first time, they usually think we're running some kind of therapy center. But the truth is, this is just what our home looks like when autism shows up in 2 generations. Because my spouse has told me something many times that really sticks with me. When they watch our son Solomon, they see themselves as a child, almost exactly. And once you understand that, everything in our house starts to make a lot more sense. Our front door actually has an autism decal and an autism wreath. It's our quiet way of letting people know that this home is a sensory aware space. And once you step inside, there are a few things you might notice pretty quickly. Cameras covering the house, 3 locks on the front door, door alarms, window alarms, cameras that will turn on lights that are programmed for different colors of the day. Our balcony railing has chicken mesh because elopement is a very real risk. Our son sleeps in a bed he is zipped into at night. There's a baby gate over his bedroom window. Every cabinet and drawer in the house is still child-proofed, like we have a toddler, even though he's 5. Toys aren't tossed into toy boxes. They're organized in shoebox bins by activity because predictability helps his brain. There are picture boards in every room in case words don't come easily, and our living room honestly looks more like an occupational therapy room than a typical living room. And then there are systems that support my spouse. There's a box of rubber gloves in almost every room. Things in the closet aren't sorted by item, they are sorted by outfit, right down to the socks and even the hair ties. The bed has to be made at all times. Everything has a home. And every label has to face the same direction. And then there's the rhythm of 3s. My spouse has OCD, so certain things in our house have to be checked 3 times. Before bed or before we leave the house, the stove gets checked. Not just looked at, checked. Each knob, one by one, their hand will go straight up and down across the rows of the knobs to make sure every single one is off and in the correct position. And the front door gets checked too. Locked, then checked again, and checked a 3rd time. Because in our house, a lot of things happen in 3s. It's part of the way their brain settles uncertainty. And over time, it just becomes part of the rhythm of our home. And sometimes my spouse even uses the same therapy equipment that Solomon does. So everything in this house has to be durable too. To someone visiting, it might feel like a lot, but once you understand our family, it starts to make sense. Most people think autism parenting means raising an autistic child. In our house, autism shows up twice. My son, Solomon, is autistic. My spouse is autistic too. And I live somewhere in the middle, translating between 2 very different ways of experiencing the world. Sometimes those worlds look different, and sometimes they look almost exactly the same. Solomon is 5. His autism looks like sensory seeking, communication learning, visual supports, figuring out how to interact with the world around him. He uses an AAC device. He scripts conversation. He repeats phrases that help him organize his thoughts. He's learning how to ask questions instead of just announcing things. He's learning how to regulate his body and his emotions. He's learning how to exist in the world that doesn't always move at the same pace as his brain. Now, my spouse's autism looks a little different. They're an adult now, so instead of learning the basics of communication, their brain is running at full speed all the time. They process information extremely quickly. They think out loud constantly, and sometimes their thoughts move faster than everyone around them can keep up, which leads to something I jokingly call broadcast mode. Because in our house, there's a lot of thinking out loud. And when I say a lot, think about your favorite voice actor narrating every thought in your head out loud. That's my spouse. Sometimes it's helpful, sometimes it's background noise, and sometimes I suddenly realize halfway through a conversation that I was supposed to be listening. So every once in a while, I will literally raise my hand and ask, are you talking to me or are you talking to yourself? And if the answer is I'm talking to you, there's about a 3-second moment where my brain goes into panic mode because I'm thinking, oh no, what did you just say? What part of the conversation did I miss? And my internal brain is just saying, just nod, like you have a clue. Meanwhile, I'm completely lost. But there's part of a rhythm in our house, two brains processing the world in very differently. And again, me somewhere in the middle trying to keep up. But one of the most interesting things that has happened in our house over the last few years is watching my spouse watch Solomon. Because many times my spouse has said something that really stuck with me. They've said that when they watch Solomon, they see themselves as a child. Almost exactly. The way he moves, the way he processes things, the way his brain locks onto certain interests, the way he reacts to sensory input. So many of those things feel familiar to them. And sometimes I see it too. There are moments when Solomon will do something and my spouse will look at him and say, yep, that was me. Not as a joke, but as recognition. And in some ways, watching Solomon grow up has helped my spouse understand their own childhood better. As many things we understand now about autism were not understood when my spouse was growing up. The sensory needs, the communication difference, the regulation tools, the therapy supports, all of the things we're able to adapt for Solomon today simply didn't exist for them. And that realization can be heavy sometimes because it highlights just how much autism understanding has changed. But it also creates something really powerful because my spouse understands Solomon in a way very few people can. They know what it feels like when your brain processes the world differently. They know what it feels like when the environment becomes overwhelming. They know what it feels like when reactions are misunderstood. And sometimes the two of them end up using the same things. You'll see my 5-year-old jumping on a trampoline, and then a little later you might see my spouse doing the exact same thing. Not in the same way, but for the same reason, because their bodies both need the movement to help their brains regulate. And every once in a while, I'll walk into a room and my spouse is perched on a 3-foot stool like a bird, just sitting there, feet tucked up, perfectly balanced. And Solomon will walk in, climbs somewhere strange too, and I just stand there thinking, yep, that tracks. Over time, our house has slowly evolved into a space that supports them both. Structure for one nervous system, safety for another, and a whole lot of translation happening in between. To someone outside of our house, it might look unusual, but from inside, it just feels like home. Autism in our home doesn't look like one single experience. It looks like 2 generations learning and adapting and understanding each other. And me, standing in the middle, occasionally raising my hand to pause broadcast mode. And this was just another glimpse at our world. And if these glimpses help you understand autism a little better or help you feel a little less alone, you are always welcome here. Thank you so much for listening.